most incredible minds in wellness. And tonight, I'm really excited to have my dear friend, Dr. Tracy, on. She is an incredible naturopathic doctor. We've been friends now for, I think, over 2 years now, Trace. Has that how long we've known each other?
I don't know. It feels like longer.
Oh, my right.
So fun.
And I follow Tracy. She's just a wealth of information and knowledge. She is passionate about health and wellness. And I'm going to read some of her certifications so you can know just how amazing this woman is. And tonight we have her on. We're going to be discussing metabolic health. And what I love is that Tracy is just so well-rounded in explaining this topic. And it's very important in regards to our GLP-1 product that you understand the foundations of what metabolic health means. So we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, I'm going to read you her certification. So Tracy is a certified naturopathic doctor. She's certified as a natural health professional, level 2 digestive specialist. She is a master herbalist and aromatherapist. Her journey into health and wellness began with the BS in exercise and sports science from Pennsylvania State University. With over 25 years of experience, Dr. Tracy has built a dynamic career in the health and wellness industry. And she's just passionate about education. So Tracy, how long have you been educating not only health professionals, but just the average person? How long have you been in the education space?
You're gonna date me. A very long time. So probably 27 years. I actually worked for a natural health college, and rebuilt their curriculum. So I love education. I think it's key in everything we do, and that's one of the reasons that I really appreciate what you guys do and you do, Jenny, because you do come in and you help people understand how and why things work. And I think empowerment's really important. It's not about people seeking me out. It's about people seeking out the truth for what works with their bodies. And when we talk about health, integrative health, medicine, instead of it being cookie cutter, it needs to become individualized. And, that's what I really like about, working with you and watching what you've built over the last couple of years, is that you do individualize things for people and you make it work in their budget and in their life. So that's what it's about.
It's exciting. Well, you're an expert in metabolic health. I know that you educate practitioners on peptides, and there's so many misconceptions in this space, which I can't wait. We're going to kind of peel those layers back, but you guys get ready to really learn about metabolic health. So Trace, tell us how you really kind of came into the field of metabolic health. We know that it's the it thing. People are talking about it. It's now the big craze, but what makes you so relevant in this space, and how did you happen upon, educating in this specific topic?
Yeah, well, I came out of the fitness industry. I have a degree in exercise science. I was a personal trainer for about 15 years and used to torture people with starvation diets and go big, go home workouts. And, after a period of time, I realized that calories in, calories out wasn't true. Had my first son, went back, became a naturopathic doctor, and it was like the meshing of the nutrition, the foundational lifestyle, the gut health, all the things that you learned as an ND in with my degree with exercise science. And I was like, oh, muscle is medicine. I get it, right? Because it is part of our metabolic function. It's actually part of our endocrine system. It's part of our immune system. So the relevance on just muscle alone and what fitness does alone in itself is the best GLP-1 product that you could ever have in your life. So any woman here tonight listening and you are 40 and over, it's a non-negotiable. You need to lift heavy things and do it often. Like, that's what I tell all my women. You got to get some muscle, because if you want to drive glucose into the cells without making insulin stimulate, which is something we don't want to do because insulin it builds your butt, then you got to lift, and you got to lift heavy. So my relevance came when I saw, personally, growing up, I was a very overweight child and struggled with weight my entire life up until my teenage years, where I then became anorexic, eating disorder, went to college, became an exercise science major, personal training. I then let food control my whole life up until the point where it ruined relationships. I was single till I was 34, and then I finally just crashed. And so I think that the weight loss industry, and we're going to talk about metabolic health because it's more than weight loss, but I think the weight loss industry in itself has really led people astray. And if you're a trainer listening to this, don't get offended. I did it as well. And I think we have taught people the wrong things about how the body really works and activates when it comes to metabolic health. Starvation does not work. Go big, go home does not work. And sometimes you are doing everything right.
Can you move the iPad? Oh,
broken.
Can you move the iPad?
I watched in the last year the Ozempic craze hit the market. And I'm always a sit back and watch, and I want to just see. I did that during the pandemic. I just watched, I was like, what is this? And so there were two sides. There was the purist side that was like people that inject Ozempic, you're injecting poison. And then you had people over here on the medical side that were like, this is revolutionary and it's changing. And so somewhere in the middle, everybody was right. What we have to remember is Ozempic is a brand name for semaglutide. And then you have other brands like Wegovy and different brands that are tirzepatide, which is different than a GLP-1. It's a GLP-1 and GIP, but they're peptides. And so I was like, hang on a second. I use peptides in my practice. Like, why are they so bad all of a sudden? Like, peptides have been around for decades with so many safety studies around them. They're not a drug, so they don't fit the drug criteria. They're not a supplement, so they don't fit the supplement criteria. So the purists were like, well, it's not a supplement. And the pharmacists were like, well, it's not a drug. And it became this like tug of war battle. And I was like, hold on. Peptides are naturally occurring in our body. They're good. They're bridges. Our body builds peptides. We eat steak. It breaks down into amino acids. Those amino acids reconstruct into peptides, and they do magical things in your body, like grow your hair and make your menstrual cycle wonderful and make your weight wonderful and your cardiovascular health and your kidney health and your brain health, all peptide related. So when I saw the crushing that was happening on a peptide, I was like, hold a second. Now, I know people are going to be like, no, they're bad and they make you lose muscle. And so I'm going to get to that because that's not true. It's the overdosing without foundational support that created the direct effects that we saw of people being overdosed on something. If you take a lot of vitamin C, Jenny, yes, I guarantee you, you're going to be in the bathroom all day. Does it make vitamin C bad or that it shouldn't be used? No, it's the abuse of it. So we want to make sure that when we're looking at something, we're not emotionally charged because we want to be right, but we're stepping back and we're watching the people that are actually falling victim to it, which was a group of people that had tried everything maybe, right, or hadn't, but were obese, that were headed towards a lifetime of chronic disease and a lifetime of medications and other things that would have detracted from their quality of life. And they saw an opportunity to escape that, and they took it. Now, was it done correctly? Absolutely not. It was overdosed. It was unsupported. Right. It was bad. So I stepped in, and I was like, hang on a second. Let's talk about what's really happening. We have a group of people that have been shamed for being overweight and obese. So they're surrounded in shame. And then they come here and they try to do something, and what did we do to them? We shamed them. We were like, how dare you do that? Right. And righteous indignations of ourselves because we're all so great and perfect. No, we're not. Right? We're not. We all have our little secret habits. We all do things that are off the. And if you don't, man, you're awesome, and I commend you. But I'll guarantee you do. So everyone's trying. The problem is the people that had all the money and the good marketing were in the pharmaceutical side, and they did one study that involved like 60 people that took Ozempic at this overdose level, didn't change anything else, and they lost weight. Well, if I took a bunch of thyroid medication, I'd probably lose weight too, but it doesn't mean it's healthy. So those people were the victims to it. The practitioners that actually it was put in front of were not people that were in the metabolic space. They were people in the cosmetic industry and in the med spa industry. And people that were doing Botox injections and all kinds of things, and all of a sudden they had a weight loss program, and it was put in the hands of the wrong people. So it took something that has been good, because semaglutide and tirzepatide have been studied for metabolic disorder, for reversing cardiovascular disease, reversing renal failure, reversing cancer, reversing all kinds of gastrointestinal issues, hormone issues. It is said that a person that gets diagnosed with diabetes before the age of 40 has 13 years less lifespan than the average person. So by taking a semaglutide and not being diagnosed with that, you've added 13 years to your life statistically.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not saying, is it for everyone? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Is it for some people? Absolutely. Is it for some people at smaller doses? Yeah. And the term microdosing came out, and they were like, well, if you microdose it, and then everyone's like, well, what's microdosing? How much is microdosing?
Right.
We erase that term. It's individualized.
Right.
So if someone is doing an injectable peptide, which some peptides have to be injected, they have to be because they can't pass the gastrointestinal system. That's why they're injected, but they're sub-Q. They don't go into your blood.
Right.
If they have to be injected, then it should be individualized injected and not 2.5 milliliters for everybody out of the gate, so your hair falls out and you basically waste away. So
right.
That's why I got into it. And I really started to study metabolic health, hormone panels. What is metabolic health? What are incretins? What all does metabolic health constitute, right? And we already know that metabolic syndrome is cardiovascular disease, diabetes, renal issues, weight.
Cancer, right? Cancer is a metabolic issue.
Cancer is a metabolic disease. So is neurodegeneration a metabolic disease. So when we're talking about today, like when we talk about this product and how it activates GLP-1, you are solving issues not only for someone's butt to look great in a bathing suit this summer, but you're fixing their brain.
Well, you're going to get people to sign up today just from that comment.
Well, I'm just saying, you're fixing their brain. You're fixing their cardiovascular. You're potentially keeping them from a diagnosis of diabetes just by helping them heal their bodies themselves. If you're doing all these things in all of the activation of what GLP does. And GLP is not the only metabolic pathway. That's the other thing. There's GIP, DPP4, PYY, CKK. There's all different pathways. The GLP-1 is the big sexy word that's out there, so everybody's kind of on it. So metabolic means your ability to recover and detoxify, assimilate nutrients, and regenerate new and healthy cells. Also, it means to kill cells that no longer should be in your body, which is what cancer is. They're zombie cells. They're cells that can't recover, but they can't die. They're like these little zombies. So when you do something like this for a community of people, you're saving them from a lifetime of chronic disease. And that's really what we've been trying to do forever. So how did I get into it? I've always been into it. I just didn't realize that I was so far into it until I had to study this particular genre of what's hot and heavy in the market, how it gets discombobulated, how it becomes, I'm right, you're wrong. And we have to come together and realize that we are too sick today. We are too metabolically dysfunctional. Only 6% of the world has optimal metabolic function. 6%.
Wow.
So
and it's happening younger and younger. Like they're trying to approve Ozempic for, and by the way, guys, I want to make the comment as we're getting into this topic. We're not here to cure, treat, prevent, mitigate, make health claims, diseases. We just wanted to kind of put that out there. But they're trying to get all of this approved for young kids. And we have seen that we have a chronically ill population starting at sometimes right after birth. We won't even get into that because you and I talk about that quite often. But metabolic health dysfunction is happening. Metabolic dysfunction is happening younger and younger. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
So right now the studies are coming out on preconception and conception and actually relating neurodegenerative diseases in children, autism, ADD, ADHD, you think about it, whatever you want to say, to the mother and father. Write that down, because if you have anybody in your downline, in your genre of people that you're helping, that wants to have a baby, get them activated. Because I will tell you, it will save that child. I'm not making a claim. These are from the studies, that if the mom is metabolically healthy, the baby has less potential of birth defects and neurodegenerative disease. Those are the studies. So amazing. Because kids are coming out that have autism that have never received an injection or had been exposed to glyphosate. I mean, we are finding that neurodegenerative disease is connected to the metabolic health of the parents. And even the dads. So dads aren't off the hook. They need to take the stuff too. They're not off the hook. So talk about what is metabolic health. So since we're talking about a GLP-1 activator product, let's talk about incretins. Okay, so who knew Hippocrates was right? He was. All health begins in the gut. inside your digestive system, you have these cells called L cells. And the L cells of the digestive system actually release into your body what are called incretins. And incretins are a group of metabolic hormones that play a significant role in regulating insulin secretion, blood glucose level. That's a hormone called glucagon that's released from the liver. And there's two primary incretins. The first one is GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1. The second one is GIP, gastric inhibitory peptide. So if your gut is healthy and you have no inflammation, no candida, no parasites, your integrity of your tight junctions are good, your zonulin levels are good, you don't have lipid polysaccharides floating around in your blood, everything's healthy, you're going to be metabolically optimized. But if you don't, which the top 4 medications in the United States are prescribed for gastric issues, and over 230,000 people die every year of gastric complicated issues. So obviously we have a gut issue. If you're optimized, you're going to have great incretin levels, GLP-1 and GIP. Now, GLP-1 by itself, semaglutide, is going to touch brain. It's going to help with nerve protection, learning production. It's going to help with memory, proliferation of neural stem cells. It's going to help with neuroinflammation, keeping that reduced, motor function. So think about all the neurodegenerative diseases, MS, Duchenne's, like just think about it, right? ALS, where do they start? Where do they now start? According to the incretin path, we start like, right. Your liver is touched by GLP-1s, right? Your glucose production is determined by GLP-1. Your fat content of not only your butt, but your liver is determined by GLP-1. Your plasma liver enzyme level, your hepatic stenosis, if someone has liver malfunction, it's a metabolic problem. Not always because they're drinking, right? Because you can have non-associated fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic. So pancreatic levels controls insulin, blood glucose, your islet B, your cell proliferation, your heart. Your GLP-1 controls your heart, your cardiovascular protection, your heart rate, your anti-inflammatory action, your mitochondrial ischemia. So many things. Your blood lipid levels controlled by GLP-1. See people with high and low cholesterol. It's metabolic. Yes. And we're running around saying, eat eggs, don't eat eggs, take this, take this. Like, fix your gut. Right? So your gastric emptying is determined by GLP-1. So when people had gastroparesis, where their metabolic function was slowing down, GLP-1 actually causes motility. GLP-1 actually causes muscle retention. So when you overdose it, though, instead of bulking up like the Hulk, your body will actually start to break it down and say no more. Same thing with your gastric. If it speeds up your gastric motility at a right level, at the natural level, when you get too much, it's going to be like, whoa, we're going to slow this down. So your body has a way of saving itself. So those are incretins, all determined by the gut. And GLP by itself, right, we know there's more than one, but it really does control your neurodegenerative, cardiovascular, immune, hormone. Like, it touches so many facets that we can't just be like, hey, this is all about weight loss. Because it's not. Right. It's about prevention of chronic disease when you optimize your GLP-1 pathway.
Yeah. And I love that. I mean, that's what I love about the mind-body system as a whole, is not only is it, and this is what I tell people all the time when we're educating the benefits of including this product in your diet, not only for weight loss, because we have a lot of people that don't need to technically lose weight, but they have issues in their gut. They have, issues, they're not getting the nutritional factor that they need. So what I love about our GLP-1 is that it's hitting that nutritional, right, supporting the nutrition, activating your body's own production. So let's talk a little bit about that. I know you finally decided to partner with LifeVantage because, I kind of forced her to get on the product a little bit. Let's talk about that. I'm really excited.
I'm reading the panel. I'm like, hang on. I was like, wait, I can't see the panel. Let me borrow your glasses. I was like, oh, there we go. That's good.
Yeah.
So we can talk about the product, because I do want to say two things. Number one, there's a lot of companies out there right now that are coming against Ozempic. you do you, that's fine. But what they're saying is their product is a natural peptide, and this product over here that's prescribed or whatever is not.
Yeah.
All peptides, the majority of them, are synthetic. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm sorry to break everybody's heart. BPC, synthetic, right? BPC 157's been around forever. It's an injectable or oral peptide, but it's synthetic because sometimes in order to get peptides from nature, something has to die. So instead of killing the entire planet, what they do is they take the amino acids and they arrange them in the right arrangement to make the peptide. It's actually a real peptide, but the arrangement of it is done in a lab versus in nature. So that's why the word synthetic gets put over it, but it's not synthetic amino acids. So when I saw your product and you were like, it's a GLP-1 activator, you guys weren't saying it's a peptide. You were saying it's just going to activate GLP-1. And I was like, no, that's interesting. I was like, because I want to see how it activates GLP-1, right? And so I did. I looked at the panel. Well, first, I'll start with the shake because I really love the shake. Number one, it has all your foundational nutrition. So if you're looking at somebody for why would somebody be metabolically unhealthy? Number one, the foundations: nutrition, hydration, movement, sleep, elimination, emotional, spiritual wellness, all in the toilet, right? They're not eating right, sleeping right, moving right, pooping right. So for everyone listening here, that is the first thing you should talk to somebody about, right? What are you eating? How do you sleep? Are you moving? Are you strength training? You should, if you strength train with this product, there'll be no stopping people because you're going to drive that glucose into the cells with strength training, and then you're going to be optimizing gut and all of these nutrition, all these nutrients going in, like amazing. So foundationally, this little guy right here is amazing because you're giving everybody the foundational nutrition that they're lacking because they're not eating right, moving right, sleeping right, thing all in. Like I'm not a person. I like shakes, liquids, and chewables, okay? Then second, you have the panel of zinc, selenium, you have all your minerals, you have all of and all minerals are metals, guys. So when you put in the good minerals, they hijack the receptor sites that bad metals like to stick to. So it actually, by putting in good minerals, you're optimizing your receptor sites on your cells, giving good communication. And we know that, obviously we're all mineral deficient, especially copper, which I love that you put that in the formula. And then you have your GLP-1 activation support blend. And that was the thing that I really was like, I want to look at this. I want to make sure that what's in here is actually doing what it says it's doing, and it actually does. I mean, you have some really cool stuff in here, like resistant potato starch, and people are probably like, well, what's that? Well, resistant starch, right? It's a fermentable fiber, and so it can act as a prebiotic, which actually feeds the good gut bacteria. And remember, when we talk about L cells of the gut, they need a good, healthy microbiome. They need low inflammation, and they need tight integrity of the digestive system. So right off the bat, you're feeding the microbiome, and that fermentation is actually going to produce what's called a postbiotic, which is a short-chain fatty acid, particularly butyrate. And butyrate is so incredible because it is one of the things that will activate GLP-1 production in the gut. So just the potato starch is acting as a prebiotic to stimulate the short-chain fatty acid, butyrate, which is going to stimulate the GLP-1 secretion. And so what's going to happen? You're going to get improved insulin sensitivity. You're going to have supported glucose regulation because the liver produces what's called glucagon, and that tells our body how much glucose to put into the blood. And when you optimize that pathway, you get the right amount at the right times. Now, if you're eating crappy, it's going to be harder for your body to do this. So again, if you go back to your foundations and you're eating whole foods and you're trying to go to bed and you're trying to move every day and you're just doing little things at a time with this, you're going to have substantially higher results, right?
Yeah.
And then again, the tapioca fiber, again, same type of support as the potato starch with the prebiotic and then getting into the butyrate. You have the flaxseed oil. This is your omega-3 fatty acid, your lignans, your anti-inflammatory properties. So that's going to help you reduce gut inflammation. Your MCT oil, which is going to be rapidly absorbed. Now, I didn't see what chain this was. It just says MCT oil. So you can have like C6, C8, C10. My guess it's a C8, C10 because it doesn't taste terrible. If it was a C6, it would taste terrible. And if it's a C12, it's basically coconut oil. But if it's an MCT, it's probably within one of those levels. And that is going to help you produce what are called ketones, which is a tertiary form of energy that helps with GLP-1 with the brain. So now we're starting to get into more than just weight loss. Now you're helping people neurologically. You're helping them reset serotonin and dopamine, all of those things. You have your, I guess it's baobab fruit powder, right? This is a soluble fiber, but it's polyphenol. But polyphenols are incredible because they help with microbiota diversity. That's what you need. You know, bacteria are opportunistic. They like to fight. And so if one bacteria gets fed too much, and we see that with like high levels of akkermansia in Parkinson's patients. Now, akkermansia is not bad. Out of balance, it can be troublesome. That's with anything. So if you can have diversity in your microbiota, and the microbiota is actually the genomic part of your microbiome. So most people intermix those terms, but microbiota is the genomic part of your microbiome, your DNA producing communicator of the microbiome. So there are two different roles that way. And then you have guar gum. That's going to help with gastric emptying, you know, and just keeping food. It's going to slow it. And you might be like, well, why would we want to slow down gastric emptying? Well, if people are just optimizing their digestion, sometimes they have inflammation, they don't get the nutrients fast enough out of food. So if we can just slow it down a tad, we can optimize that nutrition. And then you have the kombucha leaf powder, which again, another fermented product, but it also has the polyphenols, it has probiotic, it has the organic acids, and it's going to help with GLP-1 secretion because it's going to enrich that microbiota. It's going to further stimulate short-chain fatty acids and postbiotics like butyrate, and so it'll enhance it through those pathways. So just that little thing right there, even if you took that product, would be a total game changer. So you got your prebiotic fiber support, right? You got your gut microbiota, you have your GLP-1 enhancer, your gastric enhancers, and your anti-inflammatory properties. And that's only like, you know, a 1 inch of the panel. Not to mention that you have a full macro micronutrient panel here. Like everything's in here, along with some digestive health like licorice, ginger, and some bacillus coagulans, which are like fully probiotics and get through. So
I think that, well, that combined with the core, I guess we can just, that's the capsules that you take 30 minutes before you. So is that prepping? How is that combining with the powder? And then what I also would like to talk about is there is some balancing period for some people on this product. Like if you read the directions, it says start with 2 scoops, work your way up. So there are some people when you're balancing metabolic health, and maybe you can clarify how this works, that they're saying, well, I'm gaining a little bit of weight on this product. Why am I gaining before I'm losing? And there's been that balancing period. So let's talk a little bit about that. And then talking about how that affects, you know, how the proper, setting the proper expectations for this GLP-1 activator, not quitting before you get started, because some people with the fiber, their guts aren't used to it. So let's set the proper expectations for starting this product, which I think is super important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a conservative starter on anything because every body is different. And we talked about this earlier, individualized programming, right? You don't want to be like, okay, this says 4 scoops, you got to take 4 scoops. And you don't take 4 scoops, you're a big failure. No, I did 4 scoops, but I also eat right, think right, move right, poop right, sleep right, do all the things right. So when I took this, I told you, I literally texted you. I was like, I hate that this works. I did. I was like so mad.
You have to say yes.
I know, because I mean, no offense, but I was, you know, in MLMs before. I'm a practitioner. I don't like to get wrapped up in one product company, but I couldn't help it. I was like, this stuff works, and you feel great on it. And I didn't even feel bad. And I thought, man, I don't even feel bad and I feel great. What if someone felt bad and took this? Wouldn't they feel great, you know? So it was kind of like a moment for me where I was like, darn it, she was right. I was like, no, I got to tell her. And then I was like, sign me up. because I want to recommend this to people. I want people to experience what I experienced. So so start conservatively. Some people will have really bad digestive systems. It might be a question that you ask them. Do you have gas or bloating? Are you constipated? Are you on any gastric meds? Because people forget. They don't have gastric problems because they've been taking their Prilosec and they don't realize that they have gastric problems anymore, right? Or they're taking their Tums like candy and they're just decreasing their gastric juices. So now all of a sudden you put something in there that's going to nourish the L cells to do what they're supposed to do regardless of the inflammation. And your body's like pushing through sludge, and they're going to feel bad, and you're going to have an inflammatory response. You are. So start slow. The capsules, I'll talk about that, but with the scoops, you can start with one scoop and keep somebody on that for a week. Listen, I get it. People want results. They want to be like, I bought this, I want to lose weight. But setting the expectation are conversations like this. Disease does not happen overnight. It is acquired through the food you eat, the thoughts you think, the habits you have, and it will be reversed through the foods you eat, the thoughts you think, and the habits you have. And usually it takes twice as long to reverse a dis-ease than it does to acquire it. And so, yes, setting the expectations is big. These are not magic pills. If it was, that would be it, Jenny. We'd be out of business, be sitting on a beach drinking a Mai Tai. But it's not, because it's a tool in your toolbox to help people understand their bodies and what they can tolerate. And as it gets healthier, they'll be able to tolerate more activation, right? A 16-year-old gets in the car and floors the gas on his first day out, he's probably going to wreck. But a driver who races race cars for a living gets in a car and floors it on his 100th trip out is probably going to win a race. So it's really about conditioning the body and getting used to it. And remember, guys, these pathways haven't been activated in decades. That's why this person is sick. So to think that you're going to throw a product in and they're going to be like, yes, no, they're still metabolically broken. You just woke up something in their body, but they may feel a little bit bad. They may get a little inflammatory response. And so weight gain is inflammation. So if they are having an inflammatory response, we can get into all that, but there's probably an underlying instigator. There's probably a hormone dysregulation that they're having. Because in my program, when I put people through it, we start at foundations, we fix the gut, right? And then we look at what's underneath. What are some underlying instigators? Is there underlying EBV? Is there an underlying infection? Is there underlying nutrient deficiencies? Like what's underneath? And then we balance hormones, and then we rebuild systems and functions that were affected through long-term metabolic dysfunction. So it's like a pathway.
Yeah, it's a process, and it's a personal responsibility. You know, one of the things I do want to mention, and this is what we suggest people get started on, is the healthy weight stack, which includes the Protandim NRF2. I tell people all the time, just incorporating mind body is great, but you want to work on the cellular health, right? That's what our Protandim NRF2 product does. It puts out inflammation at a cellular level. So you're really missing a huge part of what the benefits of this product with leaving that Protandim NRF2 out, because anytime you put out inflammation, the body is going to function better. Long-term weight loss, that's why people go on those crash and fad diets and they're not able to really get that long-term, is because, like you said, they're not looking at the body like it's a process, that healing process, right? So can you talk a little bit about the importance of Protandim NRF2 as a stack together with the mind body?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just what you said. So do you remember when we first talked about me getting involved here, and I was like, you don't have a front-end product. Like, I can't just do this one product that puts out cellular information. You don't have, like, a nutrient backer to it. And then you came out with this, and then I had no more excuses. Darn it, Jenny. So, but, yeah, absolutely. So cellular health, right? Our life and death is in cellular health. And I started out talking about zombie cells. Your cells, when they're inflamed, they cannot receive information because you have a cell like this and you have receptors that stick out like this. Now, let's say that it's inflamed, right? So now you have your receptors that are covered. Well, they can't receive nutrition. They can't receive communication. And if you run an inflammatory panel on blood work, right? So I teach functional blood work. The biggest one that I run for people, if you want to see a drastic difference in your clients and patients, is CRP, C-reactive protein. Okay. C-reactive protein tells us that there's inflammation at the DNA level, causing an epigenetic expression, causing an epigenetic communication of inflammatory response throughout your whole body. By utilizing the NRF2 and the other products with this, you can change the inflammatory pathway of that cell so it can receive communication and it can give out the right communication. Because remember how I talked about, if people are gaining weight on this product, they probably need activated in a different way, which would be the products that you're talking about, right? So to have that whole stack, that whole picture, and go slow, be patient. You know, it's like you send somebody a kit. What do they want to do? They want to take everything, right? And you might say, well, let's just start with this first or that first, right? Maybe just start with taking your NRF2. Let's just take that. Let's take that for 2 weeks and get the cellular inflammation down. And then let's add 1 scoop here. Let's add 1 capsule and just walk slowly with your people. It will really make a difference. And, you know, then the products tend to last a little bit longer until their body's ready. And at that point, they're already invested. They're already bought in. They know it works. They're going to prioritize it. They're going to find the money for it, because most people have the money for health care, true health care, what we do, not disease management. But most people have the money for it. It's just that there is this underlying stopgap of spending money on it because they're not sure it's going to work. And people want proof. So sometimes slower is better. Making things last a little bit longer is better on that first investment, and you'll see big results. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I love what you said, and I tell people all the time, when they say, it's too expensive, you know, like Nick and I ended up buying a sauna for our house. It was, you know, an investment. But if you think about this, health is an investment. It's not an expense. And if you go through life thinking that it's an expense, it's kind of like saving. What happens? Retirement age, you're not able to retire because you've never saved. You've never thought that this, but really our health is an investment. It's investing into education, into taking products that actually work. That's what I love, what we have here with LifeVantage, and doing the things where you take personal responsibility for your health. So I think we've covered it all today. What else can we talk about in regards to the GLP-1 activator, just that you can think of? I know that we've...
You asked me about the
core, the capsules.
Yeah, and one of the things that's in the capsules is chromium. You know, so chromium is on, as I said, remember how the cells have to accept glucose in. So some people have more what are called GLUT4 receptors. That's for glucose. And then you have a secondary form of energy for fatty acids. That's in the form of triglycerides. So again, cholesterol, not bad. I don't know why we don't like it. But in order to get glucose into the cell, you need enough chromium and vanadium. So they put that into the capsules so that it improves your sensitivity and your ability to absorb the energy into the cells. Now, for some people that are overweight, like obese, right, they're going to have more GLUT4 receptors than somebody who's thinner. And that's just what happens because we want to change our energy usage. We want to go from glucose to fatty acid usage to ketone usage. That's why people do intermittent fasting. So that's one of the things that I noticed was in the capsules. You have berberine. I mean, berberine has been called nature's Ozempic. I don't agree with that. It's an L cell activator. It's also an AMP activator. That's your activated protein kinase pathway. So that's going to improve your cellular energy, right? So we have that. That's going to increase that GLP-1 activity. It has things like yerba mate in it. That's a leaf powder. So that has a little bit of caffeine. And then it has the matcha for the EGCGs. Those are catechins, and they enhance GLP-1s. They reduce oxidative stress. They delay glucose absorption, which is good at times, as long as we're not over-sugaring ourselves. So there's lots of things in conjunction, right, with the flavonoids that are in there, especially in the form of neurinogens. And that is actually something that helps the liver allow things to come through so that oxidative stress can be reduced. So lots of things with the combination of reducing cellular inflammation and oxidative stress with the capsules, enhancing L cell production, helping with a little bit of caffeine and that EGCG pathway to reduce oxidative stress. And then you add that synergistic effect of this, and it's like a perfect little storm. And you can tell the difference if you don't have one versus the other. Because I ran out of the capsules before I ran out of the shake. And then I was like,
you actually called me when we were on back.
Yeah.
You're like, what's going on? I can't be without this. It's great.
I'm sorry. You're going to have to give me yours.
I know. I'll ship it over to you. No, we're getting on there. We're shipping it out. So.
I know. I'm waiting for my email. I'm like, let's go.
Good. Yeah. Well, I love it.
You had a good product, that you kind of launched out of it. So one thing to end with for people that are listening, we have an opportunity right now to position this product not as a replacement for, but an enhancement for. So by 2025, 30% of the United States population of obese people will be on a GLP-1 injectable semaglutide or tirzepatide. Okay? It's going to happen. So we have one of two choices. We can go out there and we can continue to play the shame game and say, oh, how dare you inject poison into your body and I have a better product. Or we can go in and say to these people, you've done a really good job trying, but we want to sustain this for you. So we are going to complement what you're doing with something that we're doing. We're going to fix your foundational nutrition and your gut. If you're a practitioner and you can go into the hormone regulation and figure out underlying instigators and you can rebuild metabolic pathways, awesome. But even if you just did the front two, where you're like, hey, we're going to support you. Because the other thing is, Jenny, some people are metabolically broken. They are. And I have a friend who was obese, who did everything right. When I say everything, I mean, ate right, slept right, moved right, worked out with a trainer 3 days a week, ate 100% organic, watched everything, had the right amount of macros, full of things. And she still was overweight, substantially. And she chose to do an injectable because she wanted things in her life, like being able to get on the floor and play with her children. It wasn't vanity for her. She didn't care about that because she had been overweight her whole life. She never had it. So she wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to get back into my bikini. It was even never a thought for her. But her thought was like, I want to be here for my grandbabies. And so it wasn't my place to judge her because I don't live her life. But what I did was I stepped in and I was like, I'll stand with you, right? I'm going to support you. And that's what we did. And we put together a protocol that helps her now with tiny little doses still be metabolically activated and adding in things like this that helped her gut health, that helped with her chromium regulation, helped with her glucose regulation. Yes. And now she can do one injection a month and still continue to lose weight because it wasn't the semaglutide that did it. It was fixing all the other metabolic
work. Yeah.
Right?
Fixing the pillars.
Opportunity. We could be people's support and exit strategy without the shame, without making them feel terrible for a choice they made, and for people that had made that choice and have lost a lot of muscle and have really been abused by the system. We have an opportunity to rebuild them. Yeah. So I guess my word to people listening today is, be a good disciple of health, right? Be a good beacon for people that didn't have any place to go and just tried to get control of something. Be that place where it's safe for them to come and say, hey, you know what, you did a great job. Let's take you on the next step and let's get you to true health, and get you an exit strategy for what you're doing or a support strategy if they choose to do an injectable for the rest of their life. That's up to them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it is a good option for people that, don't want to do it, that they want to just do this activator.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Not having to go down the path at the expense, because it's an additional expense. So
really expensive.
That gets crazy. Well, I appreciate, Tracy, I appreciate you kind of peeling back the layers of, I know there's a lot of companies out there claiming, peptides this, but there's so much misinformation. And that's what I love. I've actually been diving into a few podcasts about peptides and how they work. We know that there's a lot of people claiming to be these peptide companies when really it's just smoke and mirrors. So I know you and I chatted about that. Can we just touch on that before we end the call? Because I know that you have a few courses on peptides, which I appreciate that you're educating practitioners on this. understanding just the foundations of cellular health and all that you're doing, it's pretty phenomenal. So
yeah, so peptides, just real quick, are just chains of amino acids. Between 3 and 50 amino acids makes a peptide. Anything over 50 is a protein, and anything below 3 is called a bioregulator. And they're still peptides, but they work at the DNA level, okay? So they can go in and actually penetrate the nucleus and change the expression. So I use those, and they get those from glandular meats. So when you're taking like liver, right, organ meats, anything like that, you're getting some peptides and bioregulators if you have good digestion. So my courses that were on peptides were just to get people to understand what they were, so that we stop saying, you know, this is a natural bioactive peptide. You're lying. It's a product that might have nutrients in it that activate incretin pathways. That's great. Yay. Beautiful. We need those, just like this one. This is not a peptide. A peptide is a peptide. It does what peptides do. This is an activator of a GLP-1 pathway. Yes, it is. And so are some of these other companies, right? But they're coming out with this massive opposition to people that are doing things like injectable peptides. Listen, my husband had chronic back pain. You know, he's 7 years older than I am. I'm super young, but he's a lot older than me. And
you look young.
Right. So, but I mean, doing all the things, exercise, stretching, nothing was really working. So 3-tour vet had some issues. And so I got him injectable BPC 157, and we gave him 30 days of injectable peptides. And guess what? He doesn't have back pain anymore.
Yeah.
And it's natural. It's not a drug. It's a peptide. So the powers that be want it. They want these peptides because they know they work. And so they're trying to make the industry hate them so that they can pull them and say, see how dangerous they are? We need to control it.
They want to pull it, and then they want to patent it so they can.
That's right. If we lose peptides, we're in trouble, y'all. Okay? Because I'm telling you, if you can just take off the propaganda glasses that you have been fed by the media of how dangerous they are.
Yes.
And actually listen to the experts. Jim LaValle would be the first one I would listen to. He's incredible. Dr. Tina Moore would be another person. Natalie Nidham is another person. Listen to those people on peptides. They're all from different genres of health, but they tell the truth about them, because most of the time, people that are poo-pooing peptides have never used them and have never used them in practice and don't know how to use them. And I'm just going to be flat out honest, because there's no practitioner that uses peptides in their practice that would turn around and say a peptide's dangerous. The practitioners that say that have never used them. So that is my stance. So peptides are good. And these companies that are coming out and saying, you know, we have plant-based peptides. Well, PeptiStrong's a plant-based peptide. It comes from lentils. So that's nothing new. They didn't discover anything. They've been around for years, right? But then you have synthetic peptides like BPC, injectables like semaglutide and tirzepatide. You have nasal peptides like Semac. You can get people off of SSRIs and benzos by using a nasal inhaling peptide to reconstruct the peptide communication of the brain. Would you rather be on a depression med or do a peptide for a short period of time and actually fix your brain?
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. It's been so poo-poo.
Well, collagen is a peptide too.
Glutathione's a peptide.
Yes, it's crazy. But I didn't understand that glutathione was the peptide. This is why I appreciate you educating people on really the truth behind what this all is, and really why we are so set apart with our GLP-1 activator, because it's so set apart. I mean, when we're talking, I know we're going a little bit long, but anyway, if you got to hang up, hang up. But I just want to say that, like, what I appreciate about LifeVantage is that they researched and developed this GLP-1 activator for over 2 years, put over $5 million worth of research or about that into developing this product, not white labeling a product that everybody's already using. You know what I mean? So we do have something that's so set apart in regards
to the delivery system is awesome, by the way.
It's so incredible, and it really is. They put the effort, the energy. We have research published studies. I would encourage you to go look at the published studies on this product and share those studies with the people that you're sharing this information with, because it is so set apart. It's such a high-level product that it's, you know, when you're comparing it, first of all, don't ever compare it to anything else, right? It's its own activator. It's a phenomenal product that there's research development and science to back it. So I'm just so thankful that we had you today, Tracy, to kind of peel back some more of the layers and really help educate people, because I feel like we as a consultant base need to be empowered with the truth so we're set apart from all the smoke and mirrors that's out there, no matter what it is, whether it's in the pharmaceutical world or the natural health world. We really have a personal responsibility to share this information and, most importantly, educate people that it's their responsibility to take back their health. I was talking to my chiropractor the other day. I love him, by the way. So, we're so eye to eye. He's actually a really big proponent of the Protandim Interact too, and has been, sharing it for years. But we were talking about, I told him, I said, well, I think stupidity is actually a choice these days, because there's so much information within podcasts and it's your responsibility to educate yourself on the power of the human body and not just take what somebody says, right? Go listen to, and I don't want to, poo-poo doctors. I love them. There's a lot on here today, but I think it's people's responsibility. And at this point, it's a choice to bury your head in the sand and to not understand. It's on you. So let's take responsibility. Let's be beacons of health and hope, which I love, Tracy. Now that we have you partnering with us as a company, I think we're very, very blessed, and we should probably have you educate the consultant base as a whole. So we just appreciate you so much, and welcome to the team. Welcome to the team. Well, anything last words to say before we hop off? It's been a pleasure today.
No, I mean, I don't want to down any other companies. Companies are trying, right? But honestly, I think you go out with honesty and integrity, when you take something out. And that was one of the things that drew me over here, because I was like, you guys aren't trying to be a peptide company. You're just trying to help people activate GLP-1. And so that's what you called it. And I was like, oh, spade's a spade, right? And you weren't downing anybody else to do it. And you weren't downing any other pathways to get your product out there. And it showed. So that's what I appreciated about it. I never saw any of your consultants post things in a mean way about anything. And I was like, that's good. That's good marketing. That makes people feel like this is a safe space, that this company cares. When companies come out with their marketing and say, like, you don't want to do this and put poison in your body and it's going to waste your muscle away, you want to do this. And I'm just like, guys, like that, that's not how you get people's hearts. Like, it's like Jesus was moved by compassion. He brought in a whip one time, but that was a whole different story. But most of the time he was moved by compassion. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I'm impressed with the product. I'm happy to be part of your team, and especially on your team, Jenny. And I love what you do for everybody. So thanks for all that you do too, and thanks for having me today.
Well, thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this Wellness Wednesday, and stay tuned next week. We'll have another incredible practitioner sharing why we are so set apart, why we have something so incredible here. And thank you, Tracy, for being with us today. I adore you. It's been fun.